everyone, I'm Sheila. Welcome back to The Truth About Death and Dying. I like to start off every podcast with a disclaimer that I am not an expert in any way, shape, or form, but I do have experience taking care of someone who was actively dying and then ultimately died. My hope for this podcast is that I can bring you resources and, thoughts to ponder and things to consider while you're taking care of somebody that's actively dying. And it occurred to me, because grief is a strange thing and it moves in ebbs and tides and waves, and it's, you're moving along and you think everything's going great, and then something just, takes you completely off guard. And grief is just, it's not always a kind thing. And so, you have to kind of prepare yourself for how it may come at you sometimes. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. And it's occurred to me in the last few months, and I'm not sure if it's me going through my doula training and it kind of, I have to reflect a lot on my thoughts about death and different aspects of, the whole dying process, that it occurred to me there was a couple of things with my father that I wish I had done different. So my podcast today is, I want to talk about regrets, and not regrets for the person that's actively dying that you may be caring for, but for for you. This is for you. So, and I'm not even sure how to approach this in a way that might make even sense, perhaps, but I wanted to at least make you aware of it. And because my dad died in 2021 and it's 2025, early 2025. And these things kind of just sort of came to light to me in the last month or two. And it was kind of like, oh my God, why didn't I do this or that? And so and I don't know that I would have even have thought to do this if someone hadn't said, you should do this or that. But I just wanted to give you a couple of things to ponder if you are the active care, the primary caregiver for someone that's actively dying. And I want you to think about things that you could do that would make their journey a little nicer, easier, more pleasant as they move through the end of their life. And for me, there were two things that stuck out to me recently when I was thinking back on my dad's final days when he was actively dying, not the whole journey, but and things that I regret that I didn't talk about or bring up ahead of time with him. And one of them, and the most important one to me, I think that I feel so much regret about, is that my father was a very religious man the last decade or so of his life. And especially in the last, when he got his terminal diagnosis, I think it really, his spirituality and his religion really kind of grabbed hold of him, and he held on to that for peace and, all that brought him. And so regret number one is I wish that I had asked my dad when he was still of, clear thinking and all that, to mark or to have a conversation with him. Would you like it if I read you some Bible scriptures when you're no longer able to, or my brothers, or whoever might be sitting bedside to you? Would you like it to hear us read you your favorite Bibles, scriptures? And if so, then I would have said, could you mark those for me? Could you mark your favorite Bible scriptures that you really loved and that resonated with you the most, and mark those for us, so that, if one of my brothers or I or my nephew or my niece or my sister-in-law or whoever might be sitting bedside could open the Bible and read to him. And it kind of breaks my heart that I didn't think of that, and it's such a simple thing because it was something he really loved. And he would get up when I first moved in with him. he was a fall risk, but he wasn't a super fall risk. So like I was going out and doing a morning walk, about an hour. I'd go out and do like about 5 miles. I'd go walk and I'd come back. But when I'd get up in the morning to go do that walk, my dad would be up often reading the Bible and reading his scriptures. So this was very important to my father. He never thought to say, hey, when I get to the point where I can't do this anymore, would you do this? What he used to say was, I'm going to recite Bible scriptures, and when I can't remember them anymore, I'm going to know that I've kind of gone, I'm over the edge there. But he never asked, like, would you read them to me, or one of my brothers or whoever might be sitting bedside. So for me, that's a real regret. That would have been an easy thing to do for him. And even if I didn't know his favorite Bible verses, I still could have opened the Bible and read to him. And so, it's one of those things where, and it didn't occur to me until 3 years later. So I hope that, if you're in that position where, you're taking care of someone that you really love, if there's something they love, whether it's reading the paper every day or a favorite magazine or, I don't know, something that you can do that keeps you connected to them and to the outside world, as much as they may or may not want. But I feel like you reading the paper or reading the Bible or reading a book, their favorite book, just hearing your voice say the words that they love to hear, I feel like that could have made a real difference, and would have just, I don't know, sent an extra bit of love to him that I feel like that was a missed opportunity for me. So that was my hope today, was just to kind of like express that to you. So if you're in that situation where maybe the person you're caring for is still of, sound mind, where you could say, is there something you would like to hear me read to you when you're no longer able? Do you have a favorite book or a magazine or the newspaper or Bible or, whatever it might be that you can do for them that would not only bring them joy, but bring you a sense of joy as well. So, there was just that thought today. And I just felt like I really needed to express that today. And, maybe it will resonate with you, maybe it won't, but I'm just thoughts to ponder and things to think about, like, because when you get to that point where, like, my dad was, when I kind of left for my weekend respite, which was usually, I think, Saturday afternoon, I knew my dad was close. He was getting close. And it's just, like, I wish I had asked him this a couple months before, so if you're in that situation where your loved one is still coherent enough to have this conversation with, I would really recommend you have it. And it doesn't have to be you reading. It can be whoever's sitting bedside, whoever's giving you respite or just on caregiver duty for the night. Because it's something really simple, but it's one of my big regrets for my dad. So I just wanted to share that with you. And the other thing that I regret, and it's kind of strange, and when my father, I know I spoke to this in an earlier podcast, but my dad's final day, it was very quick. Like, he was fine. He was laying there, nothing. And then suddenly he got the death rattle. And Christine, who was his social worker, and I were standing there talking, and so I was so grateful that she was there, because she was like, okay, we need to get this medication. And I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of it, but it helps with that death rattle. And she's like, we're going to turn him on his side, but it was very quick. And it was like, should I call my brother? She said, I think you should. And so it's quick moving when it gets down to the wire. So, we gave him the medication. I called my brothers. And then we were just like, we need to sit here with him. And so it's the strangest thing, but like, my dad had a hospital bed. And so it had the two guardrails. I don't even know what to call them, but so they can't fall out of bed. And I remember after the fact, like way after the fact, that we hadn't lowered that guardrail on the side that my dad was facing. We had turned him on his side to help with the death rattle. And I know I held his hand, but I was kind of looking through my dad through a kind of a cage, and I regret that we didn't lower that bar, and I could hold his hand and stroke his hair and, just give him a kiss. And so I just felt like that was also a missed opportunity, more maybe for me than for him. Cause I think at that point he was probably, his body was just shutting down. I think his soul was probably already had exited the body. But for me, I felt like that was another missed opportunity that I didn't take. I let that one slip by. So, it's hard to envision what those last moments are going to be like, because you're not sure if you're even going to be there. Like, I didn't know I was going to be there when he died. I wanted to be, that was my hope, was that I could hold his hand, and I did hold his hand, but, it was kind of like through this little gated, so it's weird things like that come to you. In hindsight's 2020, of course, we all know that. So I just wanted to give you some thoughts to ponder, and just kind of thinking about what those last moments might look like for you, how you might want to see it. And honestly, it's a good thing to kind of, if you could have a conversation with your loved one about what they want to, what their hope is for their final moments, and how they might see that playing out, who they want around, who they don't want around. Do they want to be touched? Do they not? And things change, because you might feel good when you're having this conversation. So you're like, oh yes, of course I want you to hold my hand and stroke my head and kiss my forehead. But then, I think as the diseases progress, you don't feel good, like, I know, and this is a minimal, comparison to being sick, having the flu, or just, and you're like, I just don't want anyone to touch me. I don't want, just get away from me. I don't want it. So I don't know, because my dad was unable to communicate that. So maybe he didn't want me to, stroke his head or give him a kiss, and, so, but it's good to kind of get these things lined up the best you can, and, and I know I can beat myself up about what I did or didn't do for my dad. But I think ultimately, if he were to, appear, he would be like, girl, you did okay. You did all right. So I know that, like, in my heart, I do know that. But then, you do have those, oh man, that was a missed opportunity that I could have really, given my dad a gift that I think he would have loved, because he did love the Bible. He loved Jesus. So I feel like that was a missed opportunity for me and my brothers, but, so anyways, that's all I have for you today. It's not a lot. But I just, I have things that come to me sometimes. I'm like, maybe this is a point I should make, maybe just put it out there, that maybe just think about your loved one's interests, and how can you incorporate that into their final days, or maybe you can't, but if they like to read, or they, like to hobby, or, I don't know, but I think have that conversation with them, have it while you still can, because when the time comes down, sometimes it moves really, really quickly, and then you don't have the chance to ask them anymore. So anyway, that's all my thoughts from today. And you probably have noticed that I have a different background today, because I'm actually coming to you today from the Samoset Samoset Resort, in Rockport, Maine. I'm at a convention, and I thought I would just put some thoughts out there while I'm here. So anyway, as always, I wish you a peaceful journey. And if I can be a resource, or if there's a question you want answered, I'm going to put my info up there if you want to contact me. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, thank you for stopping by. See you next time. Bye-bye.